NFL is back on the Turf and Touchdowns podcast, our first podcast since the Super Bowl and our first off-season podcast as well. It's nice, Tom Collins, just talking about NFL once again.
It is. It does feel like it's been a while. I mean, it has been a while, to be fair, since the Super Bowl. We have got a long way to go before the start of the new season. But stuff is happening in the NFL, which is always good to see. Obviously, we're going to be talking about free agency here. Then we've got the NFL draft next month. So this is an interesting period of time, isn't it, where we start to get a little bit more excited about potential bets and also just talking about teams that are going to do well and not so well next season.
Rank the Super Bowl out of 10 on how much you enjoyed it.
I'm going to go as Super Bowls go. So not in general. Like obviously, I enjoy it because it's Super Bowl. But as Super Bowls go, I'll give it a 4.
I'll go 2.
Yeah, I thought 4 was generous when I said it.
Literally, all of our Chiefs fans, and there are a lot of them in the comments, humbled. That was just so bad. At halftime, you're thinking, well, the Chiefs are going to come back and it's going to be a good game. And it just, nope.
Hey, I don't want to say that I said so, but the Chiefs, it was like an overdue bad performance from the Chiefs. It was coming.
Yeah, and I'm glad they waited for both of us to be like, you know what? All right, Chiefs can have it then. And they're like, nope, don't want it. Don't want it. Yeah. That was the Super Bowl now a little over a month and a half ago. It was a while back, but free agency is kind of happening all around us at the moment. The main parts of free agency have happened. We'll get into that in a moment, but we are on the road to 1,000 subscribers. We're currently on like 536, so a little way to go, but any of you that aren't subscribed that are watching this that think that we are just great, you're right. But please subscribe. That helps us out massively. Leave a comment down below as well with anything that you may have relating to this podcast. We've also got a horse racing podcast as well on our channel. That won't be relevant now, but you can go and watch it anyway. All of the same. We produce content every single week. One thing we need to do, Tom, is give away our Listener League spot.
We do. It's been a while since we advertised this spot was available, but hopefully everyone that actually tried to qualify for that Listener Fantasy League spot is still watching our channel, and especially those who are entered and have won, because we're about to decide who the person is, right?
Yeah. So for the Super Bowl, we were pitching the Listener League, and we said that if you predict a touchdown scorer, you're immediately in the bag. And we're going to do that draw right now. There were 6 people who got correct touchdown scorers. Saquon Barkley burned a lot of those bridges because he didn't find his way into the end zone. But we managed to get 6 in no uncertain order. The 6 are L.W. Brown, 1974, Connor Stevens, 7394, Cameron Dean, 1902, Mark Cummins, 91, Paul Powley, 9191, and Alex Grieve, 5501. What's with the numbers? Why has everyone got numbers?
Yeah, that's a bit ludicrous.
Legit, Connor Stevens, 7394. What were you born? What's happening here? But all of you, Tom, look away, because Tom's going to be doing the draw, basically. But he doesn't know about this. Everyone has been assigned a number. There you go. Everyone's assigned a number. Tom has no idea what the numbers are. So, Tom, you can look back now. Oh, I should have just left you there for as long as So, guys, welcome to the show. Right. Numbers 1 to 6. You are going to pick a number.
Okay, I will go for...
Whichever number you pick, by the way, is final. You can't go back on it.
I apologise to everyone that I don't pick their right number, but I will go for number 4.
I'm hoping that the guys that are watching knew what number there was. But number 4 is Paul Powley, 9191. Well done to Paul, he's already said, to be fair, he's going to be watching in the off-season. He's good. Someone who is Calvin Austin's biggest fan from Pittsburgh, albeit he's currently about wide receiver number 5 on the Pittsburgh Steelers after free agency. But Paul Powley, the first Listener League spot is yours. We've got 9 more left to give, I think, to make us up to a 12-team league. We'll be giving out so many more Listener League spots throughout the course of the off-season and building up to the season. My plan, anyway, I've not discussed this with Tom, is to do the Listener League draft live on YouTube. But
that would be quite good. Be fun, yeah, I'm up for that. What I will say, and my plan, which I haven't discussed with you yet, is I think from the next episode onwards, we give away a spot per NFL episode, not horse racing, per NFL ep. Obviously, during the off-season, we're not going to be producing weekly episodes of the NFL because stuff doesn't happen every week. But I think for the next 9 or so episodes, we can do a Listen League spot for some. We can give a reason for why people need to comment and how to qualify to get involved.
I'm looking forward to getting to like the last Listen League spot and running out of podcasts. Be like, we just need to do a podcast. Welcome to the giveaway. Right. Well done to Paul Powley. Look forward to playing fantasy football with you in the near future. Everyone else who missed out, if you got a wrong answer regards to the Super Bowl, fear not. There'll be so many more Listener League spots coming up to you in the coming podcast. But let's talk about free agency winners and losers. I've got a list, Tom, of just players that have moved effectively. I think all of them have moved. Yeah, every single one of them has moved teams. So we're going to go through them. There's about 15 on the list, and we're both going to rate with a number, sort of speedy, on how relevant it is to the NFL/fantasy and how much it excites you, okay?
That sounds good to me. I will preface this by saying, usually for this kind of stuff, Luke sends me the list and then I kind of prep roughly what my answers will be. Luke did show me the list. I have not prepped my answers, so this is going to be off the cuff.
You're lucky I showed you it. So this is ranking the relevance of free agency moves. Deebo Samuel to Washington.
I'm going to give it 5.
I'm going to go 6. I was more, but Zach Ertz has come back. DK Metcalf to Pittsburgh.
7.
I'll go 5. Devontae Adams to the Rams.
9.
7 for me. Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders to Dallas as a tandem.
3.
1. Cooper Kupp to Seattle.
5.
6, because I'm a Seahawks fan. DeAndre Hopkins to Baltimore.
2.
2, who cares? Josh Palmer to Buffalo.
5.
1, who cares? They paid him way too much money. Evan Ingram to Denver.
8.
6. Christian Kirk to Houston.
3.
5. I'll give him a 5. Geno Smith to the Las Vegas Raiders.
7.
4. 4 for Geno. Najee Harris to the LA Chargers.
4.
7.5 for me. I love that. Justin Fields to the New York Jets.
2. More on that to come.
Fantasy world more relevant, but 4, whatever. Sam Darnold to Seattle.
5.
Okay, 3. I'm sad. Out of that list, Tom, who do you, when the news came through in regards to the not the trade but the moves, what piqued your interest the most?
Well, the numbers kind of give it away, but Devontae Adams to the Rams and also Evan Ingram to the Broncos. I'll talk more about Evan Ingram in a bit in the next section we do. But on Devontae Adams, I thought the Packers would be interested in getting him back, to be honest with you. We need a wide receiver 1. It didn't happen, but he's gone to a team that could be a Super Bowl contender next year, providing they keep all of their position players healthy and fit throughout the whole season. And with Adams there, I think he gives them a different angle. Him and Puka Nacua are going to be dangerous.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think the Rams are going to be a good team this year. The one thing, I think you guys were interested in Devontae Adams, honestly. I don't think Devontae Adams was interested in you guys, but I don't think it's because you're the Green Bay Packers. He literally came out and said, I want to play somewhere warm. I want to go to the West Coast. I want to play somewhere warm. That the Niners were in with a shout once Deebo left. Apparently, Brandon Ayuk is still possibly going to be traded, which would be chaos for the Niners. Everyone's left them. But I agree with you. I think Devontae Adams, maybe not for a fantasy season, will have a massive year. But I think as an actual NFL player, I think it's a really, really good signing for the Rams.
Yeah, I do as well. I don't actually disagree. No, I do disagree a little bit with the fantasy angle. I think he'll have a good year. I think Puka will be the main fantasy wide receiver for the Rams, that's for sure. But I think given the way they play, and I know they are relatively run heavy with Kyron Williams, Matt Stafford likes throwing the ball. So he's going to go to Devontae numerous times. I wouldn't be surprised if he put up maybe 800 yards and 8 TDs, something like that.
Yeah, I don't disagree. When I say relevant for fantasy, I mean Devontae Adams relevant. He's still going to have a very good year. Like if you can get him as a wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 4 for your team, good job, brilliant. And then you've got the upside as well of if Puka gets hurt, which Puka does get hurt a lot. We saw it in college and we've seen it in the NFL so far this for his career. Suddenly Devontae Adams becomes literally one of the wide receiver ones in the entirety of the league. DK Metcalf to Pittsburgh. This is a guy who came out and said, right, I want to trade. I want out of Seattle. And Seattle were like, fine. I think we even came out and said, worst case scenario is that he's back here playing for us, which kind of told you what was going to happen. But he said, I want to go somewhere hot. I want to play somewhere warm and I want to play for a contender. So he ticked neither of those boxes and went to Pittsburgh. But the reason he went is because Pittsburgh paid way too much money for him.
Yeah. Now, again, I thought the Packers would potentially be interested in DK. That's not happened. The difference between Devontae Adams, well, there are numerous differences between Devontae Adams and DK Metcalf. Both the wide receiver ones. Adams is way more reliable than Metcalf. Adams has a better mentality and attitude than Metcalf, but Metcalf is a lot younger. And I think for Pittsburgh, there was a lot of upside with DK, especially when you've got George Pickens. You've got two proper stud receivers there when they're on their day. And Pittsburgh have been such a run heavy offense over the last few years just because of their QB mishaps and failures since Ben Roethlisberger. That I think adding these two wide receiver ones, is going to be crucial to their offense. I wouldn't be surprised if they played better next year, but they're in such a difficult division with the Ravens and the Bengals that they need that firepower to even contend.
They do. They also need a quarterback. They've got nothing at the moment. Mason Rudolph, I think, will be QB1 at the moment, which don't do that. They're likely going to draft someone, or there are rumors that Aaron Rodgers might come in. If that happens, I don't love it, honestly. I think that's the main thing. And also, they're in need of a running back as well. Jalen Warren at the moment is RB1. There are rumors that Ashton Genty could be on the list for them, whether they're able to actually get Ashton Genty. So a lot of Pittsburgh does make sense, but in the real key areas, Tom, that's where they're lacking at the moment.
Yep, they are. The NFL draft will be key for them.
Yeah.
And that's why they don't feature among my biggest winners of free agency and biggest losers of free agency, which we'll move on to in a minute. I think they did well with the Metcalf deal. I think he adds a lot to their offense. But right now, it's hard to suggest that they're going to be way better than last year just purely because of that QB situation.
One of my favourite movers, and I went way higher on the rankings than you. I went Najee Harris to the Chargers. I love this move for the Chargers. Look, they brought in Mekhi Becton to add to their O-line. Obviously, Joe Alt is a guy they drafted last year at, I think it was 5, when everyone thought that they were going to go big and go receiver. That didn't happen. They added to their O-line. We know they want to run the ball a lot. And bringing in a guy like Najee Harris, who Najee Harris has never really been hurt. I think he's played literally every single game. Yeah, he's played 17 games each season he's been in the NFL, which is absolutely outrageous for a running back, nigh on impossible. Every single season he's been in the NFL as well, he's been over 1,000 yards. Not by far, but he's been over 1,200 yards in his rookie year, 1,038, 1,035, and 1,043. So you know what you're getting with Najee Harris. He's no thrills. He's a guy that will just go and get the job done. But you look at what the Chargers had last year in the form of Gus Edwards, who's still there. J.K. Dobbins is no longer there. He looked great to start the year off. I think Najee Harris gives him some stability. And he's going to be a really unsexy profile that I'll be okay drafting sort of in the, I would say middle rounds, but it'll be early to middle. I think he could surprise quite a few people this year.
I suppose. I don't love him as a player. I just think he's a little bit overrated. And he was running behind a very good offensive line in Pittsburgh, and now he's going to be running behind a very good offensive line with the Chargers. Obviously, head coach Mr. Harbaugh likes running the ball a lot, so that will suit him. I just don't love Najee Harris. Also, Gus Edwards, I think, was released, unless they re-signed him.
Released? Okay, I missed
and
that.
if that's the case, then he is the only, well, they've got Vidal, haven't they? But he's RB1 right now, so he's going to get a good workload.
Yeah, you are correct. He was released. So Gus Edwards is no longer there. So he's literally alongside Kamani Vidal. It is the only running back remaining. I would imagine they're going to draft someone. So that's the good point, or the good reason why we're not doing fantasy football drafts at this time of year, because things would look very different. If they don't draft anyone, great. I think Najee Harris could end up going in like the 3rd round or something like that. But at the moment, I do love that landing spot for him. We'll get into our free agency biggest winners and losers. Tom, give us your biggest winner of free agency so far.
So I'm going to go scattergun approach here, but with minimal analysis, or enough, but minimal. So it's not going to take an age. But I've got 4 teams in my biggest winners category. I did want to just have one, but there were numerous that I wanted to briefly touch on. If you were to say who was the biggest winner so far, in general, rather than just people that they've signed, I would say the Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals are the biggest winners of free agency. And the reason for that is because they signed Jamar Chase and T. Higgins to huge contracts. that enables them to have two of the best wide receivers in the whole league for the next 3 or 4 years, and Joe Burrow is just going to have safety out there. And I think that is crucial to the Bengals' success. Protecting Burrow is now the next aim, obviously, and getting a better defense, because last year that was their main fault. But it looked like T. Higgins was going to be off for a large part of last season, and then obviously this offseason as well. It was basically, where's T. Higgins going to land? Well, he's staying in Cincinnati, and I think that's such a huge positive for the Bengals that they have to be considered the biggest winners. Now, if you're talking about additions to the squad, I think the three teams that stand out here are the Denver Broncos, the Indianapolis Colts, who we haven't talked about yet, and the Green Bay Packers. Now, the Packers may be a little bit biased, but we feel two huge needs in guard and corner with Aaron Banks and Nate Hobbs. Hobbs, I think, especially is a great addition. So that's why I like the Packers moves in free agency. Plus, we're a team that never make any moves in free agency. It's always boring, and we always wait for the draft, and then we don't even draft the players to fill the needs that we have. So the fact that we've done it in free agency, I think, is huge. Denver have obviously strengthened up their defense, which didn't even really need to be strengthened up anyway, because it was already strong. They've got Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga, both from the 49ers. Hufanga, we're both huge fans of him. I think he's going to be a massive addition to Denver. And that defense is solid. I think they're going to contend next year. And when it comes to the Colts, again, two nice defensive puzzle pieces that they've added. They got Cameron Byram from the Vikings and Charvarius Ward as well. That's going to strengthen up that defense, which did look a little bit porous last year. So I think my four big winners from free agency so far are the Cincinnati Bengals, the Denver Broncos, Indianapolis Colts, and Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, I'm not against you on any of those. The Colts, I still think the Colts are lacking a quarterback. I know they brought in Daniel Jones to compete with Anthony Richardson, but I mean, you're not going to be high-fiving anyone, regardless of who wins, unless Anthony Richardson can just sort things out. He's got all the makings to be a good quarterback, but at the moment, he just quite simply isn't. I like Denver. I think, honestly, Denver are probably the team who have done best so far. They've still just got a few pieces to put in. Obviously, quarterback, they're done with Bo Nix. Again, for me, I think they're probably the front runner for the Ashton Genty stakes. If they get Ashton Genty, then watch out. There will be a very, very good team. I think, you're not going to like this. I think the biggest winners so far in free agency are the Chicago Bears.
That makes me sad.
And I'm aware that I'm jumping into every single offseason ever for the Chicago Bears, because quite simply, the Bears have very good off seasons, and then they start playing football, and you think, well, what happened? You guys were great, but Ben Johnson's come in. Honestly, I'm not the biggest Ben Johnson fan. I think he's great, but people out there think he's football god, and I think he's just good. I think he's just good, but I like how he's come in and he's already stamped his identity on this team. He said, regards to Caleb Williams, look, we need to protect you better. And they've gone out. And it was the first thing they did. They got Joe Tooney. They got Jonah Jackson. They've also got a new center as well in Drew Dolman. Their offensive line is going to be 1,000 times better. And I know there are people out there that will go, well, Caleb Williams held onto the ball for too long last year. Yeah, he did, 100%. But his receivers weren't open, and also he was under pressure on all angles. I'm not going to say it's going to be perfect this year, but it'll be better, and he'll have more time to throw the ball. Even on the defensive side of things, they picked up a few guys. Grady Jarrett's a big name that's come in. And on the defensive side again, Dennis Allen has come in to be defensive coordinator. I didn't like Dennis Allen as a head coach. I don't think many people did. But as a defensive coordinator, I'm absolutely fine with that. I really think the Bears have done well in this free agency side of things. Keenan Allen is still out there. I don't think they want to bring Keenan Allen back, but you've also got Rome Odunze, who at the back end of last year, he really took a step up and he started to look better and better. So with DJ Moore and Rome Odunze as your 1-2, they bought an Olamide Zacchaeus as just another receiver, but we know he's good enough to fit in as a 3 if you so need him to. I'm sorry, Tom, but I think the Chicago Bears have done very well.
Makes me sad, but as you said before, off seasons with the Bears are always quite hyped, and then they get to the football field in the first week of the regular season and they look exactly like the Chicago Bears the year before. So I'll wait and see.
said like a true Packers fan. It's like, I'm not saying nothing nice about these people. Let's go on to our losers of the free agency side of things. And again, obviously, free agency is still going on and there will be additions. But at the moment, we're recording this on Thursday, the 19th of March. Who would your biggest loser/losers be?
Yes, I've got two for this subject, and I found this difficult to really nail down one. I wanted to make it the first team I'm going to mention, but I have to include the second team as well. So Jacksonville Jaguars are the obvious inclusion here for my money. They cut ties with Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram, two old enough players, but both of whom can still play. Fully understand it because they have been injury hit throughout their careers, especially Evan Ingram. But both are big weapons. And when you've got a quarterback in Trevor Lawrence who they still see as this franchise QB, and he is a franchise QB, but he's just not been able to perform due to his own inabilities at times, but also due to lack of talent out wide, an offensive line that's just not very strong, and some poor coaching. You kind of need to keep some of those weapons there for him. And I don't know about getting rid of two guys who have been at Jacksonville for a long period of time. Then, not that, look, if those two aside, you're probably thinking, well, why are these the biggest losers? I get why they've got rid of those. The additions that they've brought in, I don't know about this. Ready? 31-year-old Eric Murray at safety for $22 million. He's not even a very good safety. He's also 31. You don't bring vets in at this stage for this kind of team with a young kind of motto, with new ownership and coaching staff. I don't get that. 29-year-old nickel corner Jordan Lewis. They paid $30 million. Again, an average corner. I don't know about that. It's just wasted money. And this one, most fascinating for me. They brought in a centre called Robert Hainsey. They paid $21 million on this contract for him. He's not even a starter. He wasn't even a starter. I don't know why they're bringing these players in. It just seems like they're spending money on players that are just not going to have a huge impact. Maybe they're filling needs, but they're not filling them with the right types of people. And I just don't love that. Look, they brought in Diami Brown, which is probably a positive out wide. He's going to provide a deep threat for them. But for me, Jacksonville so far have been the biggest losers of free agency. They've spent money, too much money, on players that they didn't even need to add in the first place. The other team I want to mention here is the New York Jets. Now, the sole reason for this is that they've signed Justin Fields. And as you probably heard at the top of this podcast, I don't love that addition. If you want to become a contender, you don't sign a QB that has failed at numerous teams before. And that's the case with Justin Fields. Now, they're sticking by their motto, aren't they, of a mobile quarterback. They're like living in 2014 again with Michael Vick. And I just don't see how Fields really improves them this year. Their offensive line is just not good enough. They haven't got enough threat on offense in general, apart from Breece Hall. And for me, Justin Fields is a waste of money. They're likely, in my opinion, to draft a quarterback. But then you're using a quarterback behind Justin Fields, trying to learn off a guy who can't really throw the ball. I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, look, they have brought in Justin Fields. They've also got Tyrod Taylor in the building as well. So they have at least got a competent backup in that regard. I mean, let's not go into the Miami situation of the last few years. Miami would have killed for Tyrod Taylor. But I don't hate the Justin Fields move as much as you do. I think, speaking from a fantasy aspect, if Justin Fields plays the whole season, he's a top 10 fantasy quarterback. Not because he's a good quarterback, but because he'll run the ball a lot. And with that will come touchdowns. I think with it, from a fantasy aspect, you downgrade all receivers there. I mean, Garrett Wilson, to be fair, he wasn't really looked at last year because Aaron Rodgers wanted to play with his buddies. They've not paid Breece Hall this year, which I think is eye-opening, honestly, regards to him going forward. But we'll see with Justin Fields. You say he failed. Like, he was 4-2 last year for the Steelers. He did his job, albeit he didn't look great doing it.
Yeah, but the Steelers were just a good team. I mean, Russell Wilson is not a great quarterback anymore, and he managed to produce a good season for the Steelers. So, I don't know. I feel like he was just in a really good spot to do pretty well last year as a backup, and he did so. But he's failed at numerous teams before, including the Bears, who had high hopes for him. And going to the Jets, I mean, it would be like playing for the Bears again in terms of how much success they're going to have.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, but the Jets are already jetsing. That's a word. Just go with it. My losers for the free agency period is the San Francisco 49ers, and it gives me great pleasure to say that. I don't know what they're doing. I said last year that they should give Brock Purdy a ridiculously big contract, and they're building up to doing exactly that. I don't think Brock Purdy is a future. I think taking all of his assets away, or mainly all of his assets, is a big negative. Here's the departures for the San Francisco 49ers. Deebo Samuel, guard Aaron Banks, Javarius Ward, Dre Greenlaw, Talanoa Hufanga, Javon Hargrave, Leonard Floyd, and Malik Collins. Most of them on defense. Here's the guys that have come in just to save the day in the Bay Area. Demarcus Robinson at wide receiver, Luke Farrell at tight end, Trey Brown, Luke Gifford, Richie Grant, Jason Pinnock, and Mac Jones, a guy that they were rumored to want in the draft a few years ago, but they traded up for Trey Lance instead. I just don't see how this works for the Niners. They've not brought in anyone of note. I know they've got a few consolation picks that have come back. Their running back is Christian McCaffrey, who's great when he's healthy. He had a horrible year, just gone for staying healthy. Their wide receiver one at the moment is Brandon Ayuk, who I like Brandon Ayuk. I don't love him that much, and he's coming off the back of an ACL injury. So you're looking at Ricky Pearsall and Jawan Jennings. George Kittle is still there, but George Kittle is getting older for all that he had a fantastic year last year. And pretty much all their defense is gone. There's not much remaining in regards to the defense, especially in the secondary. I love to see it, Tom, but I don't really get what the plan is with the Niners.
Yeah, it seems like a big overhaul, doesn't it, when it didn't really need to be done, especially on defense. I will say one positive, given you've said lots of negatives. Ricky Pearsall, I think, will have a good year this year.
Oh, good. They're saved. Fair enough. Ricky Pearsall's going to have to go for 3,000 yards. That's cool. Good job, Ricky. Let's go into our best bets at this stage. Anything, Tom, from free agency that has led you into thinking a bet is value at the moment?
Yeah, we always like to include a bet in these podcasts, don't we? Whether it's, the NFL season and providing all of our best picks, whether it's horse racing, we try to link it to a play, a wager, as that is our strong suit. We're early in the year. I personally wouldn't be betting at this specific time, but if free agency has made me closer towards placing a bet, that bet would be playing the Denver Broncos at 4-1 to win the AFC West next season. Now, they've obviously got the Kansas City Chiefs in that division, which makes it difficult. But the Chiefs are on a downward trend. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I know they've just won the Super Bowl. Played in the Super Bowl, sorry. But they're not going to be firing on all cylinders this year, I don't think. Patrick Mahomes will continue to win games. That's what he does. But Travis Kelce's old now. I personally think he should have retired, but he's doing another year. So we'll see. It looks like he's lost it, in my opinion. He's still capable, but I think he's probably lost his star power. Wide receiver front, you've got Rashee Rice, who's pending a suspension right now. You've got Xavier Worthy, who's currently being investigated for domestic assault. And then the other wide receivers, you've got Hollywood Brown. What else have you got? Running back situation, they've re-signed Kareem Hunt, but is Kareem Hunt the savior here? I don't know. Isaiah Pacheco is a good running back, but last year after his injury, he didn't look the same. And on defense, I think they're very gettable. So, albeit the Chiefs are favourite, and obviously they've got this huge, furore and hype around them because every season they seem to win at least 10 games. I want to be opposing them at this stage at the prices. I think this will be the first time in 2025. I think this will be the first time since 2017 where the Chiefs don't win more than 10 games. I think in 2017 they won 10. And if that's the case, I could see the Denver Broncos winning the division. I think they'll win at least 10 this year. They seem to have a lot of the right people in the right spots, great coaching staff. Once they add a few key players, hopefully in the draft, then the Broncos are going to be a major player. So that would be the bet I would be leaning towards. But right now I haven't placed any wagers.
Yeah, that's fair. I like the price. I'm going to look in the same sort of market, the NFC West. I like the Rams. I think they're going to have a pretty good season. They're 2-1 to win the NFC West. I just don't like the other teams. I think the Seahawks will be okay, but they're more of a next year team. I think the Niners, they're going to struggle on the whole. So with every addition that they've made and the players that other teams have taken away, I think the Rams are going to be a pretty good team. I think 2-1 is very fair regards to them. That wraps up our first NFL podcast back. Tom will be back in probably about a couple of weeks or so. We'll be looking towards a draft at a certain point, but it's been fun talking football with you again.
Yeah, it's been really fun. I don't know when the draft is, but I know it's in April at some point. So I imagine there'll be a podcast just before the draft and then maybe a podcast just after with NFL draft winners and losers, much like this, where we'll talk about some predictions in the one before and some review in the one after. So that should be fun too.
Yeah, that is us done on the Turf and Touchdowns podcast. We'll be back in a couple of weeks' time. Leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe. Until we next speak to you, stay safe, look after one another. Goodbye.